Přátelé, kamarádi, vítáme vás na už páté Hookah Talk Show. Dneska přijali pozvání jedni z těch nejpovolanějších z americké komunity a dneska si tady budeme povídat o ničem jiném, než o vlastně nejznámějším černém tabáku na světě, a to o Tangiers. Ale nejenom o tom, protože tady máme hosty také jako zástupce americké dýmkařské komunity a zároveň ten tajný host sedí po mé pravici, je to George Jonson. Dále tady máme Travise Smithe, který je vlastně obchodákem a marketákem Tangiersu, který sídlí přímo ve Phoenixu a poví nám všechno, co chceme i nechceme o Tangiers vědět. A pak tady máme Neeve Donoghue, která je takovou, jak my máme Majdu, tak tohle je prostě jedna z královen americké dýmkařské komunity. Může být? Může být.
Don't forget to introduce. She showed with me.
What?
Don't forget to introduce. Oh, you did? Okay. Okay, never mind.
Okay, let's switch it to English. My friends, welcome to Czech Republic. I'm glad that you accept our invitation. And my first question, how do you like it here? How do you like Prague and our hookah scene so far?
It's amazing. It's really nice. And the attention to detail, the bowl packing, the community. Some of the lounges are small, but they're still amazingly well put together, and they feel so homey, and everybody's been so nice. The hookah masters have been so friendly. The owners have been friendly. It's been a fun trip so far. We've smoked a ton of bowls, a ton. But they can also speak on their experiences.
Yes, so the trip so far has been amazing. This is my first time traveling internationally, and I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to come here to Prague for my first international trip. The people here have been amazing. The city is beautiful. The sightseeing has been great. There's so much history here. It's so hard to see all of it in just a couple of days, but I'm grateful that I've got to experience that. The lounges, spectacular. Everything has been so cozy, welcoming. The staff, the owners have been so friendly. The hookah bowls have been amazing. I don't typically smoke this style, but I could definitely come here and enjoy a bowl this way. And this is something I feel like I could take back home with me and enjoy a bowl this way as well.
Great. You sound amazed. What about you, Neeve?
Like I said, the lounges here have been amazing. One of the highlights of the trip for me was getting to visit Caesar and see their production facilities. That was an amazing experience today because we don't have glass made in the US like this.
And they did us the whole tour.
They did an amazing tour from start to finish. They let us film everything. They were very welcoming. There was a lot that I got to learn.
And besides of your experience, what do you know about Czech hookah scene? If I told you Czech hookah scene, one thing that come up to your mind?
Before or after experiencing it?
Tough one. Before.
So before, I didn't know how elevated it was. Unfortunately, I wish I had known sooner because I would have been coming here years ago to visit. It's a different experience than we get in the United States. After visiting, you guys kill it. You blow it away. Every lounge we have been to, there has not been one bad experience, and I unfortunately can't say the same for the hookah scene in the US. On a basic level of going to lounges. We have our favorite lounges, but you go to other states and it's not the same experience as it is here.
Well, some of the states are still on Three Kings.
A lot of states.
A lot of states.
I would say
You
majority.
mean quick lights?
Quick lights on our road trip. Not disparaging them. They were great when that was the only thing you had. But a lot of hookah lounges are still using quick lights, and you're like, oh my gosh.
And just the style of hookahs that are used in lounges here, we rarely, very rarely will see this in the US. We've smoked out of dark side hookahs, we've smoked out of hookahs, we've smoked out of, name it, and it's been here in some capacity. And I think that is really cool to see, and I wish we would have more of that in the US.
Great. What did you know about Czech hookah scene back then?
The only thing that I knew previously about the Czech hookah scene, I had the privilege of meeting a great friend actually in the United States from here in the Czech Republic, and he described his favorite lounge to me and some of the others here in the city, showed me some pictures of them, and I noticed that the lounges were, you know, beautiful and that they had used some of these modern pipes, but experiencing this in person has exceeded my expectation coming into this trip. It's just been astronomical.
Point for us.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. We were buying bohos back in the day from Nisbor and BJ and
Bohemian basis.
Yeah, boho, we call boho for Bohemian basis. So we knew it came from this state of Bohemia. We knew it's Czech Republic. But I had no idea the community and the like cohesive nature of the hookah scene here.
So you were surprised, weren't you?
I was surprised, and I was also like, I ate a ton of Vietnamese food before I left because I said I'm gonna miss this food, and then to come and find a vibrant Vietnamese community, I was like, oh my God, I love this place even more.
And another thing that I wanted to mention quickly was, back home, things get a little competitive between lounges and even smoke shops. And here, there's been so many lounges we've gone to where after we're leaving, they recommend the next lounge. They say, if you like it here, go check out this other lounge. And I think that is so cool to have.
That's not common in your community.
No.
No, there's a lot of fighting.
At the start of the show, I briefly described you to our audience. This is your turn. Please introduce yourself to our international and, of course, Czech audience. Let's start with Neeve.
Okay, so I started smoking hookah back in 2012 at a local lounge. After that, moved on to other lounges, became a lounge owner. During COVID, at the beginning of COVID, we shut down the lounge, and that's when I started working for George, and that has been an amazing experience because I get to come on trips. I've learned so much more about hookah just because he knows the history of hookah in the US. I have also...
Hookah sours.
Yes.
Hookahsaurus.
Yes. I also do some blogging for hookahvault.com, which is a newer website in the US, and they do an amazing job with their presentation on their website and their customer service, and travel to hookah events.
Great, because we've met in Russia.
That was
in St. Petersburg.
Yes.
On a dinner that was held by Darkside, we sit right next to each other, and it was like, would you have a drink with me? Oh, yes, of course.
That was such a great experience, and I'm so glad that we got to meet and have such a great time, and now we're here in your home.
You are.
So jealous I wasn't in Russia.
Like right now?
No, not now, but back then.
Okay, your turn, guys.
So my name is Travis Smith. I work for Tangiers Tobacco. I was first introduced to hookah back in 2011. I was a small town kid, grew up on a tobacco farm in Southeast Ohio.
You've grown up on a tobacco farm.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm that formerly grew tobacco, but I worked in the community with other farmers. My father stripping tobacco as a young kid. And then 2011, I was first introduced to hookah. I quit my day job and started working at a hookah lounge. Became a manager of said hookah lounge and then a lounge owner myself. I was introduced to Tangiers Tobacco in 2014, instantly fell in love with it. I wanted to move on to some sort of manufacturing in the community, and there was no greater opportunity than to go work for Tangiers. So when I was fortunate enough to get a call back for an interview, I hopped on a plane for the very first time, moved to San Diego, California, and it's been the experience of a lifetime. I've been there for 6 years. I've met so many great people. George, Neeve, they're family to me. And the people that I have the pleasure of working with every single day, they're my family. You know, my mom's here, you know, and it's been a great experience. I get to share a hobby that I love that's become my career, my passion, and I get to come travel abroad and share that with you, and I'm so grateful for the experience and the experiences going forward.
That's the most passionate introduce yourself I've ever experienced, and it was great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
So,
what about you? Hookahsaurus.
Hookahsaurus. I'm George Jonson. I started smoking hookah in 2001. That someone introduced me to at work. My sister had tried to tell me about it when she went to Egypt before. But anyway, I worked at Starbucks, and one of my coworkers came back from summer break from college and brought his hookah back with him. So I got to smoke Nakla for the first time.
In Starbucks?
We left Starbucks, not in the Starbucks. We were working there. And so, and the very next day I took my tip money and I drove up to LA where he said he bought his hookah at an Egyptian grocery store. And I bought a hookah, and then it's been a love ever since. And 2002 I went to go open my own hookah lounge when I quit that Starbucks job. And that didn't pan out. And my
so just 1 year after you first tasted hookah?
Yeah, I said that I shouldn't be working here for this amount of money. Like being a barista, I think I'm gonna go start a hookah lounge. And
okay.
Yeah, and so even my assistant manager quit with me, and she's like, "I'm gonna pull my retirement and invest in you.
I will manage you."
Yeah, and it was, so but that didn't work out. And then we had hookahs, and my friend said, "Oh, I'll build you a website." And so we launched Hookah Company end of 2002, and I also met Eric in early 2002 at a gay hookah lounge in San Diego, and I said, this guy's really intelligent, and he makes bowls in San Diego. They're amazing. I've never seen such high quality ceramics. And then he says, hey, I'm messing around with tobacco, and I think I want to make my own brand of tobacco, just kind of playing around with it. And I'm like, that's cool. He's like, well, let's keep in touch. And I mean, here we are this many years later, and that one meeting, just randomly going to that hookah lounge in Hillcrest, California, it was like, it changed the whole direction of your life. And those things are so amazing to look back upon and being like, I never thought that I'd be working with this guy who was a towering giant figure, right? You know, I was like, this guy, it was an impressive person. And I said, I can't believe I've worked with this guy for so long. And we were, you know, really good friends. And so my website did good, and I said, when you are ready to release your tobacco commercially, I want to be the first place to carry it.
And you were?
Yeah. So, you know, Tangiers finally comes out. He's, you know, first round of packaging, and yeah, I mean, we were Tangiers' shipping company because Eric didn't get the same shipping rates I would get for my retail website, and he didn't have the boxes and the bubble wrap and everything. So I said, just drop them off at my warehouse, and I'm gonna package and ship everything for you, and I'll just bill you at the end of the month. So
you're the oldest dealer of Tangiers.
Yeah. So
yeah, like the oldest, you know.
Yeah, you know. Well, and so that was like, you know, until I sold Hookah Company in the end of 2011. You know, Tangiers didn't need a real big shipping department because I would handle it for him at our warehouse. We can go back to 2009. One of my customers I was selling to in Denver called me up and said, hey, you know, my employee really wants to talk to you. I talked to him, and he says, hey, I'm from San Diego too. I want to come meet you. Like, okay, come out to the warehouse. And it was Jonathan, the original designer and creator with Regal. And he says, he had come to my warehouse, and I had got samples of wood hookahs from Syria. They're really cool. And he's like, I have to buy one of these. And a year later, it failed on him. So he's like, I want to redesign this, make a wood hookah that pays homage to this, but is, you know, wide open draw and really nice. I said, okay, if you do that, bankroll, I can help bankroll it. We can fund manufacturing it, and I just want to be exclusive rights online. And so that was the beginning of Regal. And I sold the website as well as the distribution rights to Regal, and then came back a few years later and needed to work. And so obviously it was a natural fit, and it's been fun ever since.
And right now, you're the CEO.
No, I don't.
On the website, told me
Regal,
that you're
yes.
the CEO of Regal.
Yeah, president, CEO. I mean, there's three of us. Okay,
like
so
the head idiot.
It's not like any big corporation.
So like the head idiot of
yes.
Regal.
Yeah, the average dude. So I mean, and it's like I don't even turn wood anymore. It's like majority of my time is just talking to people and hanging out, going to hookah lounges and telling them, you know, I mean, and our designs are old too. I mean, we're kind of dinosaur, we're the modern, but still very traditional, right? Rubber, fit in like larger vase, all that kind of stuff. So
guys, how did you meet each other?
hookah?
Well, so I met George in 2017 when I flew to San Diego for my interview. George was tasked with driving me a couple places and getting me around, and also showing me around town and bringing me to the warehouse and everything. And
So he was your tour guide with an umbrella.
Something like that. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but all I know is George came and picked me up from the hotel, brought me to dinner, and then drove me around and took me to a hookah lounge because I was really craving a hookah.
Nothing's changed.
And then, you know, obviously I got hired at Tangiers. Lived in San Diego, knew nothing about San Diego as a small town farm kid, and became closer and closer with George throughout the years. Went on road trip together across the country, seen each other countless weekends. I drive out and see him all the time, and he's one of my greatest friends.
Aw, enough about me. Tell them the other things.
I met Neeve at her hookah lounge, Vapor Hookah Lounge in Temecula, California. I heard great things about her lounge and her, so I naturally wanted to drive up and explore her hookah lounge.
Stop.
And you know, went up there a few times. We became great friends, and then Neeve came to work for George, and I see her even more frequently now, which I love, and we get to go on trips like this and see each other together now.
With the community being so small in California, you're gonna small as far as the people in the industry. Once you've owned a lounge for a year, 2 years, if you're doing your due diligence, you're gonna meet pretty much the main players in hookah. So George, I don't remember the exact moment we met, but it was through the course of business. We carried Tangiers, and over the years, you just grow closer with people that are great.
Yep. She was a customer, and when she lost her hookah lounge, I could kind of like see on the social media posts, I was like, I wonder what she's doing. Hey, what are you up to? Nothing. Like, you want a job? Yeah. All right, cool.
If it's with you, yes.
Yeah, you're working with me. And then the same story when
Better than LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah. And the same story with Travis is when guests would come in from out of town, you know, I would always want to make sure they have a good time, or we have these, like the Russians would come, the Brazilians would come, or the Germans would come, and we would just like, you know, I would say, Eric, I'm going to go pick them up because I have a van, I have plenty of seats, and I'm a natural hosting type of person. So, you know, go pick people up at the airport, take them over, you know, are you hungry, you need anything? We're going to sit with Eric for the rest of the night. So you want to eat before we get there, right? And so, like, prepare them for everything. It's like, there's going to be a large college vocab words. So, like, for my foreign customers, I'm like, anytime you have a question about anything Eric says, just tap me and let me know, and I'll translate for you. so I've always been that, you know, entertaining person for Tangiers and the hookah scene in general.
Entertaining person. Okay, please describe to me your first ever hookah experience, if you remember.
Oh, I remember. It was at the Starbuzz Lounge in Temecula, and some friends. At the time, the law was 18 and up for smoking, and being in a small city, you had two options: go to hookah or go to the 18 and up country bar. I wasn't into line dancing at the time, so I said, I don't know what hookah is, but I'm down to go. And after that first bowl, the rest is history.
Wow, I've never heard that story.
What about you, Travis?
So 2011, smoking age, of course, was 18 and up at the time in the United States. My friends, they were like, hey, let's go do something tonight. Let's go downtown, you know, and it was a bunch of, you know, kids in a small farm community. It was cool to go to the big city. So they were like, let's go to this hookah lounge in downtown Cincinnati. So my friends drove me to downtown Cincinnati. We went to the hookah lounge that I was later employed at. The first hookah that I ever smoked was Alfaker Double Apple. And instantly, I had never been around so many different types of people from different walks of life. I grew up in a very small village, so I fell in love with it instantly. I was meeting new people, and I smoked a bunch of hookah all night, smoked cigars, and ended up getting sick. But
Coughing.
Cigars and
changed.
hookah.
but I fell in love with it. I went back and gave it another try, and then decided I wanted to work in the hookah industry.
Nice.
Well, I already told this the first time I smoked hookah, but I had also seen it in the Philippines in 1998, and I didn't know what to think of it. I was like, I think these are drugs, and I have no clue.
And I like drugs.
I was
so-
like, I walked past that area a few times, just like trying to like peek and see what it was. But you know, I was 16 and on a surfing trip, and I was like, that's so different. But yeah.
And in terms of hookah, what do you like just now? Like in terms of equipment, of tobacco, flavors? What is your typical go-to hookah, like everyday hookah?
You can start.
Okay, so being that I don't smoke at home anymore, I smoke at the barn while working. Majority of the time it's Regals because that's what we have at the barn. But George has a huge collection of pipes from every year you could imagine. So sometimes we'll bring out some of the older stuff. But yeah, DSHs, Regals.
Lately, we've been a lot of DSHs.
Love DSH.
Yeah, I mean, before we were on the Matt Pear kick.
We go through phases.
Yeah, I did stop smoking the PZs because they were just too hard to clean.
The brass ones.
Yeah, the copper one I gave away because I was just tired of polishing it. I was like, I brought this back from Russia. Please get rid of this. But yeah, I think my go-to is usually a Regal or a DSH right now. As far as flavors, I'm really open to things. There's a few new flavors that we've got samples of lately that are amazing. So I'm super excited to smoke those new flavors, but I rotate them a lot. And what about you, Travis?
So my ideal hookah setup, I typically smoke with a Regal hookah. My 3 favorite pipes I own are all, well, 4 favorite pipes I own are all Regals.
You don't have to do that just because I'm sitting here.
I know, of course. I have a mass collection of hookahs, but the ones that I typically gravitate toward are Regal hookahs. I do like other modern hookahs as well. I smoke those occasionally, but you know, obviously I smoke Tangiers tobacco exclusively. My favorite flavor being what I'm smoking now, Blitzsturm. But as George mentioned, we have a few new and exciting flavors in the pipeline that I've been fortunate enough to try and test, and I even got to develop a flavor, which was a very cool experience. But yeah, that's my
I can
typical
proudly
go-to.
say I'm no longer exclusive to just Cashmere Black with these new flavors
It's
coming
also
out.
my favorite.
That was my favorite since
you're
the
gonna
release
love
date.
this new one.
Okay, guys, what pushed you to learn more about hookahs? Because without it, you just stick with quick lights and, I don't know, Starbucks small hookah.
So what really got me into the enthusiast side of hookah was a friend of mine who was always on online communities, Reddit, always researching. He had introduced me to the Cloud Lotus, and at the time that was like mind-blowing. I was like, what is this contraption? And from there, it slowly progressed. I started entering these online communities and started learning more. I started meeting people that were really passionate about it. And once your smoking sessions are elevated to that level, you can't go backwards. You just want to get the next best session.
Same for me.
So the lounge that I worked at in Cincinnati was purchased by another retail store. Hookah Rush in Columbus, Ohio purchased us. There were several members of the staff who were in the hookah groups in the United States. And they pushed me to try different brands and different hookahs. The first time that I had smoked Tangiers out of a funnel bowl, you know, with foil and a heat management device and a Regal hookah, it was just astronomically different than smoking typical Egyptian tobacco, Egyptian bowl, traditional hookah. And I started discussing with people in the online groups, and they encouraged me to try new things, and that really drove my passion for hookah even further. And when I opened my lounge, I wanted to share that with more and more people. And yeah, I continue to learn, continue to grow, and see new and exciting things. And yeah, just keep pushing that forward and sharing it with others.
So people pushed you to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had a hunger for that. The minute I fell in love with hookah and I drove up to LA and bought my first Egyptian hookah, they didn't even have a hose, so I had to go to our hardware store.
Like bonk style.
Yeah, I had to go, and I'm walking with this brass pipe, you know, into Home Depot, and going to they have the spools of all the different, you know, plastic hoses, and I'm sitting there like trying to, which one fits into my pipe? And I'm like, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I need to find a hose. So the guy comes over and is like, what is that? What are you making? He was like, it's a pipe. He's like, for like a kitchen or a toilet? And I'm like, no, it's a pipe to smoke tobacco on. He's like, oh, okay. Like, so anyway, pulls down the spool, find the right size, and I'm just smoking with no tip, no nothing. I'm like, okay, well, and back then in America, we only had like 3 brands of tobacco. There was Nakla, Sultan, and
Fakhr?
nope, not yet. Zaglul, Salum. Salum, another Egyptian brand. Al-Waha hadn't come into the U.S. yet. So I remember in like 03 when Al-Waha first came to the U.S., it was like all of a sudden my flavors that I could choose from doubled. So I had like 60 flavors. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to go try all these now. And
So you were broke.
yes. But then, I mean, back then it wasn't until 2003 that California instituted excise taxes on our class of tobacco. So I was paying like $2.50 retail, $2.50 for 250 grams. So it's like
250 grams.
250 grams, 250 was the retail, and then I went and got a resale certificate so I could buy it wholesale. So it was
We always envy you about your price of the tobacco.
yeah, and it was like amazing. So like I had like a whole hookah lounge in my house, and so I'm like, okay, well these pipes are from Syria. Okay, these pipes are from Turkey, and so I'm buying pipes at all these different communities. I go to the like Persian grocery store and I buy the wood gallion, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, this thing is really hard to smoke out of, and why is the bowl metal? And just trying different things, and there wasn't a lot of information online yet. So when like Hookah Forum was there, and so like I can log in, check things out. But
So you were at the experimental phase.
yeah, I mean, it really was just starting out, and so there's obviously some people who were doing it before me. And one of my friends, he started the first hookah lounge that I know of in California in 1979, and so El Basha in Orange County, and he's still a friend of mine to this day. He's an amazing person, but like, it's amazing how over the years you just pick up knowledge, and sometimes I feel like I'm falling behind and I'm not learning as much, and I'm becoming irrelevant in a sense, like getting older and not knowing. And then I come to places like the Czech Republic or the Frankfurt show last year really boosted my energy because and it revived my excitement for hookah, because in America it had become kind of stagnant for me. Our industry was shrinking, the community was not as cohesive anymore, it wasn't as fun, and our HEW was just so small every year, and like, it was sad. And then I came to Frankfurt and you had 30,000 people waiting in line to come just see hookahs, and I was like, it revived my stoke, and I'm like, this is so great. And then so, through being friends with people, you start learning and doing things. But I mean, there's a lot I still need to learn. I mean, we still don't, have a diffuser or...
Yeah, that's great attitude. So guys, entertain us a bit. Let's recall your biggest mistake or fuck up that happened to you in the context of smoking hookah, business or creative work. What would you never do again, and what did you learn from it?
So this is a super embarrassing story that I'm going to share with everybody. It was my first day of working at the hookah lounge, and next to the trash can there was a metal bucket with water in it where you dump the coals as you're bringing the hookahs back. And I had seen the guys doing it, but I wasn't really paying attention, and so I bring a hookah back and I take the coals and I dump it in the trash can, set the hookah down, and I walk away. And 3 to 5 minutes later, the employee, my coworker, goes to the back and is screaming that there's a fire, and I'm like, what fire? And I go back there and the whole trash can is burning. And so that day I learned you never throw coals into the trash can. You put them out in water.
A burning trash can sounds like some of our days on the road.
Do you have a story to share?
Oh no, just sometimes you have a really rough day and it feels like a trash can fire. That's how it feels. But yeah, do you want to go and then I'll go?
Yeah, so I think my biggest screw up that ever happened to me in the hookah game was during my interview in San Diego with Tangiers in 2017. I had spent a few days there and the employees were welcoming and packed me a bowl, and I got to sit with Eric, and we had never even really talked about like job stuff at all. Like,
Just getting to know each other.
Yeah, yeah. So we get to like the final couple of days, and Eric says, "Hey, why don't you pack me a bowl?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." He's like, "You know how to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got this, you know." So I'm packing the bowl and preparing it for Eric, who I idolized, you know, and I'm preparing this bowl, and I get the pack down. The pack's pretty solid, and then I go to foil the bowl, and I look at him and I ask him, "Okay, where are the toothpicks, you know, to poke holes with?" Not knowing that at Tangiers we have a certain way of packing, and you know, we dense pack everything, and then we poke holes with the oyster fork. And in the middle of my job interview, I had completely butchered this bowl and then had to then serve it to him. And probably the worst bowl I had ever prepared in my life. So
First time using fork.
first time using fork. And I learned the most valuable lesson and the first rule at Tangiers: if you don't know, ask. Simply.
That is the first rule around Tangiers. Business professional-wise, I made plenty of mistakes. I mean, don't hire your boyfriend at the time to do your payroll taxes, and then get stuck with a giant, multiple $100,000 bill in back taxes. That sucked.
So you were a bad boyfriend?
Yeah. Or Eric says, "Hey, why don't you patent the funnel bowl? Like, I don't have the money to do it. Maybe you can enforce a patent on it or spend the money on it." And so I could have got a 20-year patent on funnel bowls. I mean, not that it would be enforceable overseas, but there's plenty of things, offered business opportunities in the beginning. And I'm like, I don't think that's gonna pan out. And then like
maybe
3 years later, I was like, oh, I should have taken that deal.
And maybe the most entertaining, if you recall.
The most entertaining of my mess ups. It has nothing to do with business, but it has to do with hookah. We're at Art Hookah Lounge in San Diego, and there's these girls smoking next to us, and one of them yanks the hose, pulls the hookah over, and she's so distraught because the coals go everywhere and the Cloud Lotus bounces, on the floor, and she's like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." I was like, don't worry. And I go with my hand to pick up the Cloud Lotus, and I come up like Indiana Jones, like, ah! And it was like my fingers were so burned and so toasted. It hurt so bad. There's like throbbing pain that like goes down your arm all the way to like your balls, and it hurts so bad. And then I couldn't get into my phone because my fingerprints were gone for so long.
Call 911.
I can't get into my phone. My fingerprints were toast. So that was a hookah mistake that I don't ever want to repeat.
Okay, that's what I call fuck up. Okay, on a more serious level, have you ever experienced a burnout syndrome in relation to hookah smoking, either personally or professionally? And if so, what brought you back on track?
For me, it was after the closing of my hookah lounge. It was so much going on in the world with COVID, and we had to stay home. I didn't have my business to go to. I was locked inside, and I just kind of got in the rut of like smoking hookah at night, talking to friends on Discord, but I had lost the passion a little bit about being involved more with the community, seeing what new products were coming out. And what really revived that was starting to work for Regal Hookah, because you go so many places, there's always people coming over, there's so many new products he's always picking up at the barn, so that revived the passion, and I'm happy for that.
I'm glad you get back on track. Mm-hmm. What about you guys?
I think for me, a couple years back, I had been working production at Tangiers. I've been trained in every department in the building. I'm in the back working and still doing sales at the same time. And I experienced that burnout syndrome of, I'm working production during the day, and then I'm, fielding sales calls in my free time and dealing with customers and everything. And then I go on this cross-country road trip. I'm already like exhausted, I'm tired. But we go to these lounges and we see the community, we see the people, and we see the hard work that our production staff and all the people at Tangiers, the 40 people in the back that are sweating it out every single day to make the best tobacco in the world. We see the customers and how well we're received and the excitement and the love that they show us. And that really brought me back to why I do what I do.
So you were maybe stressed by the amount of work you do, and it's not one work, it's just like three different tasks at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the repetitive cycle of doing the same thing every single day. But, you know, I just kind of got that burnout syndrome from doing the same thing every day and then taking on too much at times. But then seeing everyone and how well received we are and the love that people have for us and for the brand and what we do, that's what really brought me back to it.
This guy always stresses himself out and takes on more than he can chew because he doesn't want to be a burden on everybody. And it's like, you don't have to do it all yourself. And then he also scheduled our road trip really tight together. So it was like this hookah lounge and then drive 12 hours and then we're setting up and doing the next event. And
6 hours sleep, then go.
Yeah, it's like no time to sleep. And then of course he gets cranky when we don't smoke, so we have to stop and smoke. And it's like, oh my God, like it was a whirlwind. And then one of our stops, the guy got COVID, so we had a day off in DC, and I was like, thank God. Like we drove 8,600 miles over the course of a month, and it was like every day it was just go, go, go. And you're sitting in the car driving, eating junk food, and like it was horrible. If we did it again, I would definitely let you just smoke in the van. Like we just put a hookah in the van, shut up, because like we would stay at cheap motels so that we could smoke, so that this little grumpy boy is happy to get his nick fixed before he goes to bed. But after like day 2 or 3, my back is going out because I'm the old one of the group, and I'm like, I can't sleep in a Motel 6 bed. I can't. So we'd have to go to like a DoubleTree or a Hilton and like have a nice bed and relax, and then, you know, the next day it was like, can we smoke? Yeah, I want to smoke tonight. Can we stay at a junk motel? And I'm like, okay, like every other, like let's make a deal. We'll stay at a nice one, and then tomorrow we can. Plus, DoubleTree gives you cookies and they're warm.
Those cookies are so good.
You win me over with the cookies, so.
Food motivated.
Very much so.
Have you ever burned out or not?
Oh yes, let's answer the question. Yes, in 2011. I had a pretty rough year, lost a few relatives, and was in a very depressed state, and I sold my company. So Hookah Company was bought out by Hookah Shisha, and I cashed out, sold the business, and ran away, trying to find happiness. And, you know, I moved to Lebanon, and I was just going to the gym twice a day and eating amazing food and smoking nakla or fakhr that I would buy at the local grocery store. And
that puts you back on track.
And, you know, and I wasn't smoking that often. And so I was like, after doing that for 9 years, you were like kind of burnt out.
You need a break.
And then I needed to go get therapy, and that's what helped, was finally coming home. I didn't have a job. I didn't have the sense of like purpose in life.
Like where to go.
What am I doing? Like you're just, so when I came back, it took a while to get back on track, but getting back into the hookah game was the right move. Right.
I agree. Is there something about you that most of the community doesn't know and would be surprised?
I think we're going in this direction every time.
So sorry. I actually...
Maybe a bizarre hobby or something like that.
This is my life. Hookah is what I do. I don't think there's much that people don't know about me, because I'm a very open person. So it's kind of my answer, sorry.
No problem.
I think the thing that a lot of people don't know about me, and I mentioned my upbringing, I'm from a small village of less than 2,000 people, and that I grew up on a tobacco farm, completely like no cultural awareness of the world and different people and understanding of, you know, all these cultures and customs, and that's something that I really had to like learn on the fly after like 2011, 2012. The hookah industry really brought that to my life.
And you told me something about your heritage, that you're half Cherokee?
I'm like 1/8 Cherokee, but
1/8.
yeah, Yeah, my father's side of the family is from the Cherokee Indian Reservation in North Carolina.
So we have 1/8 of a Native American with us right now.
Yeah.
I was born in America, so I consider myself quite native at this point. But
this wasn't about you.
one thing about me that people don't know, I mean, you can tell by my mouth tip, I am pretty gay, and you didn't know that. You're like,
yeah, I
so
was kind of surprised on Friday.
Yeah, I was surprised that I'm gay, and he's like, I was like, I thought you were doing research on your subjects before they came.
Hey, but it's not on your website.
Yeah, so I mean,
we will change that.
yeah, so I mean, I was in the closet for the first part until I sold Hookah Company, and I had only come out to very select few people in the industry, Eric being one of them, and we kept it hidden from like even Hookah John, who still was like upset that I had never told him, and then. But at the time, like you think about, like I was going to Egypt every year, and we were importing Syrian hookahs, and I'm sitting with, you know, very conservative Muslim guys, and I'm like, you know, I have to kind of watch what I say or what I do, and when I sold the Hookah Company, I was like, that's it, I'm gay, bitches, fuck. and that was you know, that was it, and then you know, people were shocked, but. The really good people that I was truly afraid of them treating me different didn't, right? And so like Haj Ali, rest in peace, he was I called him Amu, like in Arabic meaning uncle. He taught me a ton about hookah, and his family owned like the building that KM's offices in Gamaliel were at, and he told me, he's like, when I came back into hookah, he's like, I heard it's between you and God, and I still love you. And I'm like, aw. Mm-hmm. So those moments that you were so afraid that he was going to treat you differently was better. That's something that that's a story I rarely tell.
Thank you so much that you're being so open. Right now, my friends, we go straight back to Tangiers facility. Let's talk about Tangiers. All of you can contribute, but it will be exclusively with Travis here. So Travis, I don't know what to ask you. It's such a boring company, you know. But maybe please share with us a story of Tangiers as both brand and the product. We are all ears.
So Tangiers as a brand started off in San Diego, late 90s, Eric making bowls. Then, you know, as George said in the earlier days, Eric had started making funnel bowls and then making tobacco in his mom's kitchen, actually.
How about I step in for a second? So bowls came out in 1999. Eric worked at Fumari as a bouncer at the Hookah Lounge before that. And so being that we're in San Diego and Fumari was the first place in 1997 that opened up this Hookah Lounge, Eric was a local there, and he thought about making a hookah. It's like, I have an engineering degree, maybe I should make a hookah. And the people at Fumari convinced him that people buy tobacco every month. They buy a pipe less than once a year. Maybe you should think, he's like, that's a really good idea. So in 1999, he was already selling bowls. When I first met him, he was already selling bowls. And then 2002, he was showing me the tubs when I first met him of like his coconut flavor of the tobacco, and he was cooking in his mom's kitchen. Funnel bowls didn't come out until 2007. So that was much later. And that really changed the game, actually, because it was always hard for me to pack in an Egyptian bowl, Tangiers, and you fluff pack it enough to where the air could pass through. But when Eric figured out dense packing and the fork method, he really shifted the game and changed things over. Now you have this heavier tobacco that I can actually smoke. And now here we are fluff packing it, and I'm like, it's amazing, extra heavy, but back then I couldn't handle a fluff pack Tangiers. I would throw up. Ooh. And I did sometimes, leaving Eric's place. His first lounge location on El Cajon Boulevard was in a very shady part of town. And there was multiple times I drove away and had to pull over and puke from smoking too much with Eric.
So when did Tangiers officially started to produce? You know, in a factory, let's call it that way.
So the first lounge location, Odyssey on Oklahoma Boulevard, was, I can't recall, probably 2003, 2004. But he was already making tobacco for his friends at home in his mom's kitchen, and he broke the stove and had to replace it for her. Yeah, so 2001, all that stuff was being produced and at the house. And then 2004, and I believe the license came. He finally got a federal license in 2005. And so luckily he did, because we now have FDA grandfathers and we have a grandfathered company, which is, you know, protecting us and shielding us from some of this really expensive.
Guys, do you know what stands behind the name Tangiers?
Well, Tangiers, the name comes from the city of Morocco, Tangiers, but obviously too, one of Eric's favorite movies being Casino, the name of the casino in Tangiers, Tangiers Casino.
The fictional casino in the movie Robert De Niro's running is Tangiers, and he loved that movie. And one day it dawned on me, I'm like, oh my God, you named the company after this movie. And he's like, nonsense, it's a city in Morocco, jackass. I'm like, okay. I mean, I just thought for a second, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you named it after that movie. So, I mean, who knows? I don't know, but that's a theory that I have for sure. That movie was one of his favorites.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen it a few times now.
Travis, and maybe you all. Who was the legendary Eric Hoffman? Please introduce him and his legacy to our community.
Eric Hoffman was one of the most intelligent and kind, giving people that you would ever meet. I developed a close relationship with him over the years, working for him for 5 years. He became very much a father figure to me. I considered him like a father. He would give you 5 minutes of his time no matter what was going on through his day. There's not many companies that you could work for that you could come to the CEO of the company every single day and say, hey man, I need 5 minutes of your time, and he would gladly give it to you. He did everything for a lot of us. Whenever anyone was going through a hard time, he was always there, whether it was to help out, you know, financially, or some advice, or just, you know, a shoulder to cry on. He was always there. He was one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met, the most intelligent person I've ever met. I never left a day without learning something new, whether it be industry related or just a random pop culture fact about a movie, or, you know, music in the 60s or whatever it may be. He was also fun to be around. I spent practically 18 hours a day with the man, and
Board games. He was fantasy football was a passion of ours. He was incredibly competitive and fun to be around during football season, especially.
Like football or soccer?
Like American football. Yeah. But even in a game like fantasy football or a board game, he always tried to eliminate the possibility of him losing, and was always one step ahead of you at every single turn. And I think that competitive spirit drove a lot of us, and then the culture that he created in our company that brought us all closer together. He assembled the best workforce possible and the closest family possible, and that's why you really see the tobacco continue the way it is and the company continue the way it is, producing that amazing quality. He held everyone accountable, and we've passed that on with each other, and we're always there for each other.
Thank you.
He changed the direction of my life. What can I say? I mean, in the beginning, my website was the one bringing enough money to keep the doors open, and later on when I needed a job, his company made enough money for me to survive and not to struggle. So, I mean, you know, he phrased it once as like, we're like pace cars. When you're doing NASCAR, they do like ones in front and then they draft off of each other. It's like, you were doing this with Hookah Company, and now Tangiers is doing this, and I want you to be on this with me, draft with me, we're together. And so it was always always something that you would learn, and he had a great way of making analogies of things that would help you make sense of the world. And I told him once, we had a conversation about clouds for like 3 hours, and he said, do you see the leaves blowing in the trees? And he says, yeah. I said, yeah. And he says, do you see that they're blowing the opposite direction of the natural, like they're flipped inside out? It's like, there's a storm coming. I'm like, yeah. He's like, drive home safe today because there's going to be rain probably on your way home. And I was like, how do you know that? He's like, because trees will get blown, the wind goes this way normally, so the leaves naturally grow, are this way. When they're flipped inside out, something's gone awry and you're not getting your normal weather. And I'm like, I've learned more from you than I have my own parents. And he says, I think that's a compliment if I've ever heard one, And so I'm like, it was devastating to lose him, but, and it's still painful, but we're trying so hard to keep the company alive and running and stay true to his vision and his way of doing things, yet still bring it into the new century and with new packaging, new processes, and it, I don't work for the company, but I always tell people, like, I'm quite senior in the inner circle of Tangiers, but I don't work for the company, right? So I'd say Eric provided so much for us, and he was a person who always gave second chances to people, and people chances who typically wouldn't have gotten chances. And it's a really great charitable thing that he would do, right? So a lot of the lifers that have been with us for many, many years are people who probably wouldn't have been hired at a normal job, but because Eric saw something in them and gave them a shot, he was just an incredible person. But he also ruled with fear too. He struck fear in the hearts of us, and it was like, I would joke with people sometimes. I said, we're like the North Korea of tobacco. We love dear leader, we praise dear leader, but sometimes that iron fist will come down, and we needed it, And usually when he ripped into me, most of the time, there's a few times he was out of line, but most of the time I needed to hear what he needed to pound the table about. And so, an incredible, incredible person.
So I think his legacy still lives on in you all.
Yeah, we're trying as best we can, and it's giant shoes to fill, literally giant hat to fill. Like he wore those top hats and the bowler hats, and I put one on the other day of his, and it was like, it dwarfed my little brain. Like, this guy not only was such a smart person, he must have had a brain the size of a basketball,
How did he get his background in tobacco making?
So Eric was a chemical engineer previously, and like George said, he had previously worked for Mari as a bouncer, and then began developing tobaccos, and a lot of that engineering background came to be in making tobacco. Yeah.
It also helped that he understood the chemical composition of the flavorings, right? Mm-hmm. So he could look at it and say, okay, well, this terpene has a whatever bond, and go through, stuff that's way above my capacity. But, all the stuff, he would look at it, and he would, if he didn't know something, he would analyze it from every fraction of a degree, 360 degrees around, and I would say, like, are we beating this dead horse for another 6 hours talking about something? But he would just think of every conceivable option and what was going on, and we would talk about it for sometimes days on end on a single subject until we came to a decision on what we wanted to do. And he was going to make his decision the way he wanted. It didn't even matter if I said, well, I think I'm in this camp now. He'd be like, yeah. But we were doing whatever he wanted to do. And, 99% of the time he was completely correct.
We have a little controversy here in our Czech community, because some of our community members thinks that one of your newest flavor, Eric's Mango, was against Eric's wish because supposedly he hated mango. So please, one more thing. Did actually Eric dislike mango flavor, or it's just a rumor?
I assure you that Eric did not dislike mangoes. As a matter of fact, like, a lot of the time, he would have some of the best quality mango fresh fruit that you could buy in the office. And
You would have cases, you know,
Yeah.
because you buy the cases at like, they would be like, you know, 6 or 12 in the case. And so he wanted a mango flavor for so long, but he couldn't ever get a flavor that satisfied him. And so that was like the last will and testament, was that like he'd finally come to a mango that he liked. When papaya came out, or papaya sorbet came out, and this was back in the Mission Gorge location, and he goes, hey, try this new flavor. He doesn't tell me what it is, and I puff on it, and I go, oh, you're finally making your mango. That's awesome. He says, no, dumbass, it's papaya. And I was like, oh, it's, you know, I was close, right? And so to have it and to get it, and then some of my friends are like, you know what? It doesn't taste like a mango. I'm like, why? And they're like, I think it's a pretty spot-on mango. They're like, no, mangoes aren't sweet like that. They're sour. And I'm like, you've only had fruit from the grocery store in LA. If you go to like a tropical place and have fruit in like Brazil or Hawaii or Vietnam or anywhere, you're gonna have better fruit. Like the tropical areas have amazing fruit, especially mangoes and papayas, and they're actually sweet when they're good. So that was not against his wishes, and he definitely loved mangoes.
So it's a rumor.
That is a rumor.
Okay. Travis, and please speak more loudly for our crowd. In your opinion, what makes Tangiers so unique on the international tobacco market in comparison to maybe other dark leaf brands? What are the key components and thoughts behind your products?
Well, I think
what makes them unique?
I think first and foremost, what makes us unique is the fact that everything we do is a handmade process. The people, the team that Eric has assembled, and the precision behind every single process, it's been done the same way for 20 years. And we have a lot of senior staff in the building, and we continue to train people the exact same way. And the fact that the process has remained the same for so long, the fact that everything's American made, American sourced, American labor, by hand, and the process being so tedious and so many quality control procedures done with so many sets of hands, I think that's what separates us from everyone else.
It also adds a lot to the cost when you have hands doing it. In the American labor market right now, no one's going to come in and work for less than $25 an hour. And so if you think about that, we have to amortize that cost across every kilo of tobacco. It does put us in a higher tier category. It's also hard to get distribution and come into countries like where we're at right now with abiding laws and doing things correctly. It's very difficult. So there's also a mystique about it. Like, we really want this like pioneer who changed the course of hookah with this dark leaf tobacco and funnel bowls and forks and all the things that he did. And it's so hard to bring that to fruition and satisfy the demand that we have around the world. And we're trying. They're trying. Tangiers is really working forward and trying to increase production, bring down lead times, but
it's all handmade still.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's still a painstakingly tedious process.
Talking about the process, can you at least give us an idea how Tangiers is made? I know it's the most sacred secret, but we would like to understand at least a fraction of the process.
So I can give you a general background of the production process. So we have 4 major departments within our building. We have our cooking department, which is the beginning steps of processing the tobacco. They take it from a raw and unrefined state to refining it, cleaning it, getting the tobacco cooked and ready to be flavored. The flavoring department being the next step in the process, then adds, flavoring, liquid mixtures, everything like that, bags, everything by hand.
2 kilos at a time.
2 kilos at a time, by hand. Then we have our packaging department, which is actually 2 separate departments, but under one. So everyone thinks that everything is vacuum sealed and machines do it. No, it's actually done by hand. Squeezing air out of bags by hand, and we used to do flyers by hand, wrap every single one, handwrite every one. I did that on a daily basis for 3 years.
Is
very
it still
tedious.
handwritten?
Not with the new boxes.
Yeah, we do have a new, more modern packaging that we've introduced. So you guys see this modern box with a peel away sticker that you can put on the tub now.
But you have more time for producing tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you just, I mean, how many flyers can you write before you get carpal tunnel? And time is money, and we have to try to cut as much as we can to still deliver a really good product at a price that people can afford. So the boxes cost more than the flyer, but it saves money and labor.
Right, and then lastly, our shipping department is our last quality control step. They check the quality of everything that's came through production to make sure that it meets our standards before it leaves the building. So every single department plays a key role. There's no one that's more important than the other. They all work together as a cohesive unit to make sure that those quality control standards are met through every single step of the process.
I saw a big stoves in your facility. You use it for cooking the raw tobacco or for the whole mixture?
Cooking the raw tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they bang it, the pots with like the spoons. And so he's probably the only person that could still do a double shift of doing that, because your arm would probably fall off. And I couldn't do any of that because I've never been in production. I'm always just in sales.
I'm not sure I could still do it. It's a testament to the guys in the back. Those guys work so hard. It's very manual, tedious labor, and those guys do it every single day.
Standing over those hot pots and that smell of the molasses, it's a lot.
Every single department, like I said, everything is done by hand to this day the same way. So shout out to the people in the back. Those guys work very hard every day.
One thing about the process, Eric used to say, like, not any single person has all the keys to my castle, but between the people in this inner circle, basically the people who wear the hats who are management, have enough keys collectively to keep this thing going. And so that's definitely where we're at, right? It's so people have to come together, and we still have to stay a family to continue to produce this stuff.
Yeah. Travis, you told me a great story about liquid cane mint. Can you share it with our audience?
Oh, wow. So as I mentioned, like the flavoring department flavors, you know, the tobacco and everything, the cane mint flavoring itself, the flavoring used for cane mint, if it touches your skin, it's cold. I mean, like, we've had people, you know, pick up a towel by mistake that had that liquid on it, or, you know, they were flavoring throughout the day and then didn't wash their hands before they went to the restroom, and then you see somebody running full sprint down a hallway. I've been one of those people. It's not fun, trust me. It's very cold. It will make your entire arm tingle, I promise you.
Is there a flavor that nobody wants to cook it?
There is several flavors that nobody wants to flavor. As a matter of fact, I don't know if any of you like Welsh cream, but you know, if it's Monday morning and you were out drinking at the bars before on the weekend, and you came in, you know, and you could tell that you were out on the weekend, guess what you got to flavor in the morning? Welsh cream. And I promise you, it was not a great experience the rest of the day.
That you're going to puke, or?
It's very powerful. It would make you very nauseous. It would make you regret all the decisions you've made on the weekend. Cherry flavoring, anything that contains cherry, it will get to your skin. It's like it will definitely tear at your skin. Some of the flavorings behave harsher than others, and in my experience, those two are the two that I don't want to flavor. I've done it. It's not fun, and that's a testament to the guys in the back that can do it every day. They're amazing.
So that's maybe the answer for the topic that Tangiers is having a standard, but it really depends on the flavor. How does it behave in your bowl?
Yes, and you could tell, like, you know, blueberry is an amazing flavor, but it's also a little heat sensitive, so you have to be careful with the amount of coals you put on it.
Do you have, for example, a map or a list of the, let's say, most heat sensitive flavors?
We do. So all of our flavors are broken up into color categories. They're coded in the warehouse. So think of a rainbow. We go red to purple, right? So purple being the most transient flavors are our mint flavors. So that's where you find like wintergreen, blitzsturm, cane mint, bug powder, flavors that are more transient and they can stand up to heat. The cashmere flavors and the blue being the next down.
And don't use the word transient. That's an Eric word. it's like ghosting. It'll stain your hose.
Yeah, yeah. The red flavors like tropicals and berries, things like pineapple and blueberry, those can be more heat sensitive as well. They do behave differently. Different flavors have different characteristics that cause them to behave differently.
Travis, this could be so valuable if you share it with us, because we are struggling to find this fact on our own. And if you share this, I think it's no secret. It would help us a lot.
I believe that there's the website is being rebuilt, and Eric had made a catalog list. I have a copy at home, and it's you know, flavor number 1 through whatever, and it's got the color coding, and it has the description and like heat sensitivity ratings, and so we had a whole scale of doing every single flavor, and that's something that we need to update it with the newer flavors, and then hopefully get it on the new website whenever that launches.
Just share some part of the love you experience every day in Tangiers with us, and we would be happy.
I never learned the color coding system.
Well,
I mean, that's too
very fun.
Yeah, that's, for example, for me, first time to hear that. So I think it will be really valuable to all smokers all around the world.
Yeah, and a very fun fact too, as you know, a production employee, in certain departments, you had to learn those. You had to learn the flavors by number, by name, 1 through 119. Now we're up to like 139, right? But we had to know every single number, name associated with it, and color category it was in.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Blitzstorm, purple, black.
55.
Mine.
61.
61 Indian Summer.
98.
Chocolate, no.
Indigo Flower.
Indigo flower.
106.
100 and...
Pine Pass?
No, 104 is Pine Pass. Hesitrigus.
Hesitrigus.
Number 1.
Number 1
Lemongrass.
used formerly apricot, lemongrass. now.
Lemongrass now. Yeah.
38.
38 Cashmere Peach.
Yeah.
And I will end with this on Cashmere Peach, which is my favorite. Okay, guys, let's dive into the Tangiers universe. From what lines are your portfolio made of? Like, I think right now you have 4, but it used to be a Lucid line, I think. So please let us dive into the product portfolio of yours.
So we have 4 lines of tobacco. We have our Cook line, which you would see the green label associated with it. It's our lowest level of nicotine. Also has a different sweetener base to it.
That's Cook.
Yep, the flavors come out much sweeter. There are certain flavors associated in that line that are exclusively in that line.
Cook was the replacement for Lucid.
Right.
Lucid was the lower nicotine line, and it's something that I enjoyed when at Hookah Company. And then when I came back, I was like, "Where's Lucid?" It's like, "It's Cook now. We changed the sweetener in it, and it was."
And it's a combination of Burley and Virginia.
The
lowest
I don't
line.
know. I've never worked production, but it's the lowest nicotine amount. And then you have Nor
is
our standard.
Yeah, it's our most common selling line of tobacco.
The yellow one.
Yep, our yellow label. Then the next step up, you have our Burley line. It's our strongest level of nicotine. That's our purple lavender colored label. And then the next highest line you have up is our F line, which is our Burley tobacco, but is also caffeinated, and that's our magenta.
Once I asked Tess about why do you produce F line, she told me because it's fun.
Yeah. Eric used to say, "I like to combine 2 very addictive substances that I enjoy and make it into one product." I hope I've.
Do you know what caffeine adds up to the mixture?
I mean, we used to sit around and he would say you could smoke a bowl, but you're not going to get something like drinking a Red Bull in 10 seconds. It's not going to be to that level. But you do feel it a little bit after half an hour smoking. I'll feel a little increase in my heart rate or something. Talking more than I already do.
Okay, that's tobacco, but I think you used to. Maybe you're still producing your own coals. Then you spoke about oyster fork using, and of course the funnel bowl.
Yeah.
Is there more?
So currently we have our Japanese coals that we import, or as people commonly know them, silver tabs. Those are still being produced as well. Our funnel bowls are still being produced.
Tangiers pico bowls.
Yeah, so we have various sizes. Number 8 being pico, the smallest. Number 4 being our small. Number 2 being our medium. And then number 0 being our large, which there's different capacities. Obviously, our large holds up to 100 grams.
But it's hard to get our hands on them.
Well, just come visit us.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
No problem.
Come on, come hang
Just come
out.
on down.
Yeah.
We still use oyster forks to this day to mix our tobacco, dense pack it as well. We even have a new charcoal on the horizon that may hit market soon.
I don't know anything about that, but yeah, I broker the Japanese coals for Tangiers.
So we know something about it.
Well, Eric goes, well, you're Japanese, so deal with them. And I'm like, my grandparents are Japanese American, and I don't speak Japanese. I was like, nonsense. You know how to deal with them. Call them up. I'm like, so yeah, I have to go research, find the manufacturers in Japan to private label and do the coals for us. There's a more to be said about bowls too. So like his first bowls were modeled after like a El Fishawi, which was like a very old Egyptian lounge in Cairo. It's in Hussein, the square. And then he had like the tower bowls that came out later. And he had the flat tops, which I really liked, which had the ridge for like foil pulling over. And then he had the Super Chiefs and funnels. And funnels. So like the Super Chiefs were like the domed, raised, eggy, right? And so it was just a way of preventing juices from dripping down. And then of course the funnel was knock it out of the park, successful. And I named it, so yeah.
Let's talk about it later. But actually, you started to produce your own merchandise finally.
Yeah, we do have a guy in-house that designs a lot of our T-shirts, stickers. We have some cool buttons too that Tess makes by hand. Those are really cool. Flags, all kinds of cool merch, mats.
Stuff from Tangiers Club Brazil. They do a lot of cool stuff
Tangiers
down
Club, Tangiers Club in Brazil. They do a lot of really cool merch, and we actually have collaborated with them to bring Tangiers Club US. So hopefully bring some of the cool things that they do in Brazil to the United States market. Yeah,
that's it. Do you know what products or projects have either won or lost mark on the market since the beginning of Tangiers? Like the best-selling thing and the worst idea.
I mean, we've had several flavors that people have said like, oh, I want this flavor. For example, bacon, right? Like everyone's like, you got to make a bacon flavor. You got to make a bacon flavor. You got to do it. You got to do it, right? And Eric's
That's actually my first Tangiers I've ever tried.
Same as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, mine as well. But bacon comes to market, and then so many people were like complaining about it, and their number one complaint was it tastes too much like bacon, right? Like it's spot on, and I mean, there's been several.
Just at eggs.
Yeah, making breakfast. Eric opens up the thing of flavoring and says, "Smell this," and I'm like, it "Smells like heart disease," But I love bacon, but that stuff stained everything. Right, so I get a tub of bacon to take back to home, and it literally ruined the pipe and the hose and everything. So I was like, that is exclusively a bacon pipe from now on, right? I still have a tub, and the flavor is pretty much dissipated because it's so old at this point. But some people will come over, especially like my Russians, that are like, oh my God, you have bacon on the shelf? I want to smoke it. And I'm like, you can.
Bring your own hookah.
You can, but not in my pipes. Go grab a KM from the front yard, because I have pallets of hookahs. So like, just grab a KM from the front yard, and you can take it with you after you smoke it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been several, failed flavors, per se, but, some of those get reintroduced back, and then they're wildly successful, and then they go away again. For fun fact for you guys that didn't know, schnozberry actually used to be called mystery meat, right?
It was schnozberry and bug powder together were mystery meat. He separated the two. And he came up with that name, and I said, gross. You sure? He's like, yeah, it's going to be great. I'm like, okay. So we sold it as mystery meat on the website. And he's like, how's it going? I'm like, it's not really selling that well. He's like, okay. And then later on, separated the stuff out to make schnozberry and bug powder. And it was the right decision for sure.
Those names sound much more appealing, right?
Yeah, and this is also the scraps, the leftovers. So like they would get scraped into buckets.
Yeah, we call it table mix.
Yeah, the table mix of all the production goes that way. There's also cane mint and bee, which is all the cane mints combined. Yeah, so.
Okay, that wasn't so successful. Okay, what are your key markets right now, and how do you work with their feedback on your product?
Oh, key markets. I mean, in the United States, California, of course, Georgia's territory is our key market. I mean, I have several states as well, but they don't stack up near as much as George.
Just not me, baby.
So, I mean, of course, we have our South American market, our Eastern European markets. Europe now is really growing as well. A lot of the feedback that comes in from, California, South America, the Eastern European states, Europe, come to like our major, sales team, George and our other sales agents as well, and we give that feedback and to management, and decisions are made as well based off that feedback.
Mm-hmm. Do you have in 2023? Do you have problems with counterfeit products?
Yeah, counterfeits are still very much a thing. I mean, I remember a couple years back, Erica came to me and brought me a package, and he said, "What does this look like?" And I was like, "That looks like my handwriting, but a very poor imitation of my handwriting." You could tell there was a reason we did everything the way that we did. Like, you could see the hesitation marks in the handwriting, and I assure you, our trained packagers, there was no hesitation. It was, you could write 100 flyers in a row, you wouldn't see a single like hesitation mark. You see people try to knock off our labels, or the bags are wrong on the inside, or different security features on our packaging are off. We still have problems.
Mostly from Eastern countries?
I mean, we've had counterfeits in Eastern countries, South America. I mean, we get them from all over the world all the time.
I would get some of my customers that have busy hookah lounges, and they'd be saving all their flyers, and they'd have a stack of flyers from serving hookah all the time, and I'm like, "Cool, you guys can like build a wall with the flyers, do an art project." They're like, "No, I have a guy, he's coming, he's paying me $1 a piece for them." I'm like, don't do that. Because they're buying the real flyers for the piece of paper in the middle for $1, and then they're putting whatever they want in it and reselling it. And then it'll pass our handwriting test, because it is our handwriting.
Yeah.
Like Eric would look at it and go, "Oh, that's Selena's handwriting. That's, Amy's
I'm ashamed, but I also have one."
So, and there's a lot of counterfeits that go around in our industry, but as long as people could figure it out that it's counterfeit, then it won't damage our reputation as much.
And that's something too that you guys can always message us, on either our Instagram, Tangiers Tobacco, or help@tangiers.us. Hey, I bought this product. Send us a picture of the packaging. We can authenticate it for you based on several of the security features on the package itself. So no hesitation, message us, and we can
Every
authenticate
package
it
still
for you.
has the customer code on the back, so we know where it came from, and where it went, and who's the distributor, and all the hands it went through.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because could you also explain the codes on the packaging, like 4K, YR, TX, and stuff? And do the products differ in composition according to those codes?
So the customer code on the back, it tells us where in the world that it's going and ensures that it stays in the region that it belongs to. For example, like some of my states, Ohio, for example, my major customer in Ohio has a code OHL1, right? So if I see that product show up, say in Georgia's territory, then I know that I can tell them like, "Hey guys, why are you selling this product in California?" I can ensure my customers in Ohio that, "Hey, you are buying this from an authorized retailer. This is authentic." The composition doesn't change. Everything's processed in the same exact way. It doesn't change based on customer.
But maybe once you deliver to Europe, we have some laws that you have to obey.
Right. So for example, like Germany, they have different compliance than other regions of the world. So yes, some tobacco may vary in composition if their laws prohibit us from manufacturing the way that we manufacture in the United States.
So basically there's no, it's still the same product?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, let's dive into a specific and rather unpopular opinion on Tangiers. Please respond to the following statement. Tangiers has been fluctuating in quality in recent years. The tobacco cut, amount of molasses, heat resistance, and strength of the tobacco are all changing. We think it's not our subjective point of view, and we are both pissed and disappointed by the fact.
So I don't think it's a subjective point of view in the sense of, yes, the tobacco will vary. It is a handmade product. Humans, there's going to be variance in any handmade product, whether it be a bowl or it be tobacco. So for example, we did have an issue with a cut. The cut came out smaller. We noticed that. We received feedback from, some of,
Even
George's
from our
customers
guys?
or my customers or Eastern, Europe, wherever it ended up. And we addressed it from there. We went back to our production staff and said, hey, look, we've been experiencing these issues. This cannot happen again, right? And then it's addressed from there.
And that you can feel in the packaging. So when they're saying the molasses is more, the recipe hasn't changed, but just the cut being a different size did affect the way it feels and the way that it looks.
It was more like marmalade or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and it also affected the way that we pack, right? So then I was like, oh, when I started fluff packing was with this smaller cut tobacco. I said, now it's starting to, the nicotine hit me at the same level that I'm used to. And so it's just really the cut that was off, and that has been fixed. But definitely people want to hear that, hey, this was an issue, it is fixed, and we don't want that to ever happen again. We're completely sorry that anything like that happens. But just know that the nicotine is also the same. So we had run tests on it. Oleg and I sent away packages. So I had packaging from San Diego when the production was still in San Diego. I had packages from 2019 when Eric was still around. And then I had packages made of the same flavor, the same 3 flavors from 2023, this year. And I sent away to a lab and had the nicotines tested. 2019 and 2023 were a negligible difference. It was basically the same amount of nicotine. But I thought too, that it's not the same. Well, I was also vaping 5% nicotine at the time, right? So my perception of that was off. And I said, well, the old stuff used to hit me way harder, so the nicotine has to be stronger at the San Diego location. I was so sure in my mind that that was the case. It was lower than what we're producing now. And so I was like, maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, right? So the testing I thought was going to prove something that I could go show them. They're like, look it. Nope. It pointed right back at me and said, no.
I think it's all based on the fact that we actually love your tobacco. And we, thanks to smugglers, enjoy it since 2014 or maybe 2013. And so we experience your story with you guys because we smoked Tangiers for, let's say, 7-8 years, and we had different batches, we had different types of Tangiers, and we love it. So maybe that's not like we hate it, that's just bad right now. We just, it's like, yeah, it's like with the memories. We want the ice cream to taste the same like 20 years ago when we once tasted it, and that's maybe the point.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard, again, like you said, with a handmade product. It's hard when your taste buds change too, right?
Yeah.
Things tasted great as a kid.
And the thing about nicotine was right.
Yeah, and you sit there and you go, okay, well, you evolve, right? I didn't like cigars 20 years ago, and now as I'm getting older, like, these cigars taste pretty good now. So I think my taste buds have died or something, and now it tastes amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can smoke a bowl of Nor tobacco, and it's more like my cup of coffee in the morning. I don't get a nicotine buzz. I don't get the spins or anything like that, but it's like my cup of coffee. That's how I start my day. But if I smoke a bowl of Burley, I'm in for a treat. Like I got a buzz, and I'm like, oh, hold on, I need to stand up slowly.
You also think about like other things that have come to market that are really high in nicotine. You have like Frigate and WTO and all these things that are really high nicotine concentrated products. And then they're going back to Tangiers and going like, doesn't taste the same. Well, you may be vaping like I was, 5% nicotine, or you may be smoking WTO and adding frigate to all your bowls.
Thank you for your responses. And now let's ease up. If you had to choose 5 flavors, of course of Tangiers, to take with you to a deserted Hookah island, which ones would they be? Starting with Neeve. 5 flavors of Tangiers.
First one is going to be cashmere mango. Second is going to be cashmere black.
Cashmere what?
Oh, she spilled the beans. I did not mention the name.
It's been posted on Instagram before me, so.
Oh, okay.
So,
It was sold at the pop-up. I was just a customer. I didn't sign any NDAs or anything.
okay, so cashmere mango.
So cashmere mango, cashmere black, cane mint, pine pass, foreplay on the peach.
What?
Sorry, peanut pass.
The fourth one?
Peanut pass.
Peanut pass?
Peanut pass.
104.
What's that?
Passion fruit pineapple.
Oh.
Something.
She's spilling more secrets.
I found that
Great
out.
to hear
All out
that.
there.
Take
Just
this
put it all out
away.
there.
Okay, thanks, Neeve. Now you, Trev. Spill
Oh.
more secrets, please.
Wow, if I had to choose 5 flavors, okay. Blitzsturm, definitely. Cashmere peach, wintergreen. Man, this is tough. I thought I was prepared. I was prepared for all the questions. Lemon blossom and cosmic.
Okay, great selection.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. Cosmic is the double apple type flavor, and so that's pretty insane that that's one of your go-tos.
I love that flavor so much.
Okay, for me, apricot comes to mind. I love the original apricot. Not so much the spring bud, but the regular apricot. Foreplay on the peach because it's sweet and fruity, and it's also for a giving pack because I'm sure if I'm trying to make my own coconut shells on this deserted island, I probably need to have a flavor that's easy to pack. I enjoy mime quite a bit, and lemon blossom as well because it reminds me of Persian ice cream. And then, of course, cashmere mango is so out of this fucking world phenomenal. Like, I can't get enough of it. Like, I got a little bit left over from the party. Like, we had a pop-up, a little bit of a tub, and I was like, just like worshiping the little bit that we had. Like, oh my God, don't pack such a big bowl. We have to make this little tub last because it is a really good flavor. The cashmere and the mango together complement each other in such a way. Also, the new flavor, Bananas Foster. It's surprisingly good. It's rare that you have anything
Good
banana in any company that's good. And this one, I think, is hit the nail on the head.
Great to hear that. Do you have something to add up?
Oh, I was just going to say, I do enjoy the cashmere mango as well, the nice big tub I have in my office. is-
Oh.
Okay, cashmere mango all the way. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to bring some with me, but the package didn't arrive in time. Otherwise, I would have had it here for you to smoke.
Of course. Thank you. Okay, let's dive into community way. How do you see the American hookah community evolving and growing in the coming years? And what role do you see yourselves playing in this process?
I think for me, it really, really depends on the flavor bands that we're experiencing. If the community comes together and we're able to get exemptions for hookah across the board, like we've been successful 50% of the time maybe, I see hookah having a second coming, so to say, because vaping is now banned in California, and I think not everyone that vapes is going to come to hookah, but I think a small percentage will create another boom for hookah. But that definitely depends on what laws are passed. If there's more and more laws passed, our community is so small, I don't see it surviving.
I mean, they introduced a new bill this year to freeze the age. So if you were born
Like in New Zealand.
after 2007, you will no longer be able to buy tobacco ever for the rest forever. And so these crazy laws are being proposed in larger population centers, as well as like even Hawaii, but they try every 3 years to pass that law and it never makes it across the finish line. Last year we had 15 states that introduced flavor bans. Not a single one made it across the finish line. So California has a flavor ban. We were instrumental in getting the exemption language written into that bill. And then Massachusetts has a flavor ban. We got a hookah lounge exemption. We didn't get a retail lounge exemption. We got a sponsor last year to introduce an amendment to the bill to try to get a retail exemption so people can actually still buy the product if they want to smoke at their own home. And that failed. It didn't make it through. But political advocacy has been part of the community, and it's very tough because you put in 4 or 5 years, and Neeve's been with me at every city hall meeting, every county board of supervisor meetings, everything that we do, protesting and making T-shirts and doing these things. I mean, we worked on LA City for 4 fucking years, spent a tremendous amount of money, and only got a half give out of them, right? So it's really tough that it will devastate our community if we don't stand up. And if a fraction of the people who actually enjoyed our product got involved, we would be sitting pretty. But it's like the same 4 people that show up to these city hall meetings.
Before these questions, you were so positive.
I really think, though, that there is a small hope of saving hookah in the U.S., and if we're able to accomplish that, I definitely think we will be looking more towards the European market, towards Russia, because we don't have that
Kashmir
excitement.
mango. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
So it's just, I think we need to look to outside markets to bring that excitement back into hookah because we don't have as many products being produced.
For my personal opinion, I think you're kind of stagnating because since 2009, maybe until 2015, we in Czech Republic look to West. We have your packing methods. We used your products. We use your tobacco, and it was great. Since 2015, we started to look also to East.
Yep.
And right now we have a great and unique combination from the best of the West and both East.
100%.
But what about the U.S. community and maybe like the products and stuff?
Products are hard.
We're such a relatively small market, and the enthusiasm around hookah is not what it was at its peak.
In the masses.
Because of the vapes and other products?
I think one thing that has been a part of that happening the way it happened is that when hookah was popular in the U.S., it wasn't an upscale, classy thing to do. It was loud music, 18-year-olds smoking, not having a lot of money to spend on it. And I think if we had hookah like it is here back then, more people would have stuck onto the hobby versus leaving it because it was just the thing to do at 18 or when you're in college.
Mm-hmm. Do you have many community or commercial events, or are there unfortunately very few of them?
I think on the enthusiast level, we do have a lot of events, and in our community, Hookah University, on Facebook and Instagram, we do a lot of meetups. We do some international things when we have the chance, and that's how I was able to come to Russia, is because Brandon from Hookah University got a group of us together, and that brings excitement to us. I did something last year called the Shisha Meetup, and that was just a really small event, but it was something for the enthusiasts to come out to and, partake in. We have HEW, which is a hookah-only expo that Hookah John has been putting on. And unfortunately, COVID kind of was detrimental to that because it was growing and we were seeing more people coming every year, new people, new brands, better booths, because the booths you have in Frankfurt and in Russia, completely different than what we have in our small expos. So...
Yeah, I mean, 2019 was the best year for HEW, and I hope that the community can still stick together and be united. But I mean, I think 2009 was my best year for sales, and then by 2010, vaping started coming out, and it's just easier to do, right? You can do it while driving, you can do it at, the office. It's not the ritual of setting up hookah and lighting the coals and taking the time to prep it and spend 30 minutes doing it, right? It's like grazing, like a cow does, right, with these vapes. And so it really, I think, prevented people from coming into the world of hookah.
I think another really cool thing that we have the opportunity as enthusiasts to do is attend the Tangiers pop-up events that they've been hosting. it's really cool as an enthusiast to be able to go into the factory. You get a whole tour. You get to smoke the way Tangiers smokes their tobacco, and it's a great experience. So doing these pop-ups has been amazing for the enthusiast community to be able to go to the factory, because I don't see other brands doing that, and it's something that brings us together, you know. The last pop-up was this last month, and we had a van full of people. Enthusiasts flew into California, spent a few days at George's house, and then we go to the pop-up, and it's just a whole trip with friends.
We smoked hookah in the van.
Yeah. That was a little too much hookah. 5-hour, 6-hour drive smoking.
You pre-pack your bowls, and then you're lighting coals off of coals and trying to do things. It's a lot.
It's not the best, but it's a fun experience.
When those coals are lighting, your eyes are burning in a van. You're like,
But that makes memories.
Exactly.
It does.
Guys, we were speaking about the community. I have another task for you. Who do you think contributes the most to your community, whether in terms of spreading the hookah knowledge, selling, or making products, influencing, or entertainment maybe? Let's do 5. Let's do 5 of the most maybe influential, helping people in our community, except of you.
Okay. So, can't name George.
Domestic?
Domestic.
For
US.
just the U.S. market?
Yeah.
So, my answer will be based off of Hookah University, because it is such a tight-knit family, and the 2 people for me that are really influential are going to be Paul Seelau and Brandon. Brandon truly changed the game for hookah in the U.S. He was the one that was going to Russia, getting all these products, introducing all the brands to Russian products, and that was a great influence to have, because we wouldn't have even known hookah was what it is in Russia. And Paul is another great person from Hookah University that has been a great influence, and he's a really positive light that we really need.
So that's 2.
Sorry.
I would add on to those. You
can have 6.
Yeah, I would add on that you have new influencers that are coming out, like Elo Musk. She's passionate about hookah, and she's a fun person to be around. You'll have even people like Hookah John, who just, posts his driving to work videos, and, they're a little mundane, but he's at least diffusing knowledge to the community and getting people excited about hookah. And, the pop-ups and the small events that we have. I mean, Neeve's doing another Shisha meetup, but not at the same level, but a coal battle. So we're going to have a coal battle next month, and people are flying in from around the country to hang out.
Coal battle?
Yeah, so we're going to do a blind testing of all the coals in the U.S. market. People are saying there's coals, and so you won't know what brand it is, but then we're going to rate them on, the longevity, the
smell,
cloud output,
carbon,
smell, and all that stuff, and
heat.
just see what coal you prefer when you don't know what brand it is.
Guys, what do you think are the most interesting and horrible hookah trends these days for you?
When they call vaping products hookah shit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
So with the laws passing in the US, there is now a lot of brands that are vape companies that are basically turning a small handheld vape into an actual hookah. And so I'm sitting there looking at this, and it's literally just a vape that has a vase, and there's water in it. And I'm like, why is there water in it? This is a vape. So to me, that's something that we don't like to see, because it's going to hurt our political fight in saving hookah, because it looks like people are trying to get around with these loopholes.
Yeah, adding a hose and water to it doesn't make it. But with the flavor bans, it pushes you to try to circumvent the laws, and the evil we know is that tobacco's not good for you, right? But whatever people are going to start making to try to keep smoking, most definitely there's going to be some blowback where people are going to put the wrong products into things, right? So it could definitely be detrimental in a sense when people start doing things that aren't chemical engineers like Eric and start messing around with flavors and trying to circumvent the laws themselves, and then people are going to get hurt.
And I would like to add on a positive note something that is, I think, going to change the game in the future. I don't think it's fully there yet, but Hookah Monk, we saw that last year at Frankfurt, and it was very interesting to see an electronic hookah that's going to replace coals. For me, there's still some things that I would like to see, but I think in the future that could definitely be something for indoor smoking.
That's definitely probably the dirtiest part of your bowl experience, right? So eliminating that and doing it properly, I mean, that's been the holy grail for like 15 years, right? We've always talked about it, right? From the ones we used to flip and plug into the wall, the coils, they had a dial. They were absolutely garbage, but I mean, they were good for lighting coals. You just flip it upside down and throw your coals on it, and now your hookah head thing got so fucking hot because it was just a coil. To everybody who's tried to do these things, and I hope that someone perfects it. The Hookah Monk is probably the best thing to market yet.
That I've seen.
But I think others are going to follow suit, and that if they start perfecting that, I mean, it could be a game changer.
Especially for lounge with the minimum wage in California. I mean, that was one of the biggest costs is employees having to go around doing coals. So for me, it's kind of exciting.
Great. Guys, we are kind of running out of time, so I just put last questions and dedicate them to Regal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't talked enough. I mean, right?
Yeah, you have. You haven't. How did you feel when Regal was design-wise copied and sold under the Karma brand? Did you address it with them?
No, I mean, they never reached out to me. I only saw them in
because
pictures.
they were our first Regals.
Yeah, I mean, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, so they say. Thank you, but I think our metal's a better quality, and I think that our product is still superior in that sense.
And what are the key components of your product? Because we can see a proper Regal right here. So what can you tell us about the hookahs you make? So
this is an American maple wood. I sent this off to a wood burning artist who burns this stuff by hand. This is a 6160 aerospace grade aluminum. So it's CNC'd. There's no hollow components, which was the way that Jonathan wanted to design it so that it wouldn't rust in the middle. There's no welds on it like the low flux soldering that we would get out of Syria and Egypt at the time. And then from here to here to the bottom is 304 stainless steel. So you do have a stainless steel inner pipe stuff. It's set screwed in, and there's epoxy holding the wood from spinning. And they last a long time. So if you get them, they outlast most hookahs on the market. The first hookah lounge that we ever sold to in Boulder, Colorado, still has them, right? From 2010. So they're still there.
And you can't beat that warranty.
And I'm too nice, so I always fix things for people. They're like, oh, my wood got scratched, or my dog knocked over my epoxy, and send it over, I'll fix it,
George, aren't you too much fixed on the Regal? How does it look like? The point I'm saying, maybe you saw some improvements, like another hose porting, the open chamber, closed chamber diffuser or not, or you can unscrew it and stuff. Do you apply some modern trends in the hookah making into your own products?
I've been talking for years about doing something because it's essentially the same design from 2009. There hasn't been enough change and innovation on it, for sure. I don't like diffusers personally. I like the bubble, so I never was big on it. I've made 3 different prototypes of diffusers, but we've never released one. So I think if we did do something, making it modular so that you can take it apart and put on a sleeve of wood if you wanted to, or smoke it as a stick hookah. But I'm so sick of stick hookahs. Like, it's been done so much, and stainless hookahs are great, but I don't know. I don't know what's next.
But there is something in the works.
But yeah, we have been playing.
Yeah, and do you plan something for the future?
We do plan on trying to do something. We'll keep this original line, but making something with more modern bells and whistles would be a really good thing. Also smaller, because everybody's gone to like the 26 centimeter glass, and our stuff was made for 30 centimeter glass. So you can get by with the 28 centimeter, but you can't really. That's why I have that hacksaw today, because I'm gonna have to cut an inch off of the pipes so that they can fit in the Caesar bases we bought today.
Oh, great. Travis, you can come. And maybe tell us the story of the funnel bowl, because you've mentioned a bit here, a bit of there. What is the story of the funnel bowl?
I mean, Eric was an innovative person and thought about every aspect of it, and he had earlier called the vaping before it was vaping, because he had said he wrote a letter to the state of California saying the tobacco is still in its form. It hasn't been turned into ashes. So you're only steaming off the flavoring off of the leaf. And so he wrote them. So by that definition, it's a vapor and not subject to your taxes. And they wrote him back a letter saying, yeah, you're right. And then, of course, within a month or two, they wrote a letter saying, no, you still have to pay taxes, right? But it was one thing that before vaping was a thing, he thought about like the juices and how they would, could be vaporized off of a different surface. And so that was another thing that helped lead to the funnel bowl, because he was way ahead of that time. But it just turned out it worked amazing on tobacco. And he calculated this mathematical equation on like the curvature and like so the rate that it would heat up. And I mean,
so he was the scientist.
He was the scientist. I was just the pawn who sat there and go, yeah, sure.
So why did it start with PH?
Oh, that, yeah. So I'm a terrible speller, and I hang out with a lot of Vietnamese people, and I I said we should call it the funnel. And I had a huge overstock of them in where my current production facility is in the barn, and he used to deliver them to me in the leftover boxes from the liquor store next door. So they're like King Cobra bottles, Mickey's 40-ounce bottles, and so I would just label it funnel, and I spelled it with a PH. He's like, I like the spelling. And I was like,
I thought that's how.
Yeah. So we put a name on the product.
So yeah, and the spelling was because I wasn't thinking about it, and I spelled funnel with a PH like a freaking person who's ESL, but English is not my second language.
George, what is the meaning of Regal, and why do you use the royalty symbolism?
Yeah, so Jonathan was thinking that a Regal was, nicer and like...
Because also Tangiers has Regal flower, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Has nothing to do with the two. People would ask me, are you going to make a tribute to Eric in Regals? And I said, Eric loved me. Regal, not so much. So, the Regal flower would definitely not have anything to do with it. But the original Melik, aka the king, and then later the queen, the plan was to make a complete chess set, right? So
chess set.
It was going to be a chess set. So like the prince was supposed to be a pawn, but everybody called it a prince, and so the name kind of stuck. So. I mean, and then I made a small one that would fit on like a Maya QT, and I was like, okay, that's going to be the pawn. And then Maya's like, hey, I have the patent on that glass. You can't import the glass without doing stuff. And I was like, it's only going to go to the Brazil market. I don't even care. So I didn't manufacture it. But so that was the original plan. And so like I wanted to be able to go to the shows, to the tobacco shows, and set up our booth as like a giant chess piece, and then have like black Regals and white Regals, and let people play chess in our space.
Did it ever happen?
Nope, never happened. I mean, we never made a rook. We made a bishop. We made a mini queen, which should have been called a princess. I mean, I don't know why we don't think about these names long and hard enough. So it just happens the way it happens. I mean, people are always asking, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, you're gonna do that." I'm like, the first 5 years we didn't have a tray. You had to buy it. You had to put a KM tray on it. Like if you come and see our place where we do all the wood processing, I mean, it's literally an old barn that my grandfather used to build race boats in.
Isn't a crown plate hard to use?
The crown plate is a little dangerous. But the design files I sent to our metal manufacturer.
And they were like, fuck it.
Are you sure you want to make this? It looks a little dangerous. And I'm like, well, just round out the edges if it looks a little too sharp. It's like, so, yeah, I mean, I poked a hole in I had a loaner car. When you take your car into a dealership and they'll give you a loaner while it's getting serviced. And I had to go to a flavor band in San Diego, and I had a crown tray on my hookah, and it rolled around in the back and punctured the leather seats of this loaner car that I don't even own. And I was like, oh, that fucking crown tray, right? So I took it to an upholstery place, and they like patched it up, and I like tried to blend it in, and I returned the car and got my car back. I was like, I hope they don't notice. And they scratched my car, and I was like, we're even, okay. Crown trays, yeah. I mean, so.
Guys, it's the last questions I give all of my guests. And is that so? If you could be prophets, what would you see as the future of the hookah? not just in the US, but worldwide.
Could you repeat?
If you could be a prophet, or you would see the future of hookah. Where do you see the future of hookah in the world, not just the U.S.?
In the perfect world, in my dream world, it would be like it is here in this kind of environment. But in the not so perfect world, we really have to come together and fight these flavor bans because it's not just happening in the U.S.
The EU is going to go that way too.
The EU is going that way
It's
already.
going,
Yes.
So
we
it
have to
is
step
very important to follow these trends and be aware as an enthusiast, as a business owner, and yeah.
That's it.
Travis, what do you think?
So, in a perfect world, if I could envision a future for hookah, it would be people from all over the world collaborating together to, one, help bands like Neeve mentioned in the US and the EU, but also to share their insight with others, support each other, be able to travel to each other's country, learn about hookah customs in each other's country, as well as other cultural customs, you know, try traditional cuisine and experience other people's culture and just have a collaborative, vibrant community and enjoy the tobacco we all love together. You know, preferably Tangiers. But
You are our most positive guy, you know.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the nicest thing about the community is the familyness. And in every country, I have a hookah friend that I still talk to every day, right? My Brazilian guys, my Japanese friends, and it's all the hookah that brought us together. And so I sincerely hope that that's the case for the future. And I will fight tooth and nail to try to keep shisha smoking legal and alive and safe in every place on this fucking planet. So please join the Shisha Alliance here in the EU. Please, pay attention to NHCA. It's the National Hookah Community Association. You can go to savehookah.com where we post up at least what's going on in America. And we're also monitoring what's going on over here in Europe. They're going to try to tax us into oblivion and regulate us out of our hobby. And, they leave other things like cigarettes and cigars completely untouched. Well, I think that's completely wrong because not only is it something that you do occasionally, kind of, but it's also something that, it's not like you can take this into a classroom. You're not doing this on your lunch break in your corporate office. This is something enjoyed by adults in your own home, right? And I sincerely hope that we all come through it and come together as a community and stay tight-knit.
It's great to hear that. Your version of the future. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming to Czech Republic and to be the part of this Hookah Talk Show because we've spent a few days together. You are all amazing and I want to thank you on behalf of our Czech hookah community that you came and that you spread the knowledge here and you're simply amazing. So thank you so much for being part of our Hookah Talk Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome so much, guys.